A ceasefire between Israel and Hamas seems to be holding after 2 weeks of violence. The pause came after mounting pressure from international leaders. Progressive Democrats in particular put pressure on President Biden to demand a ceasefire. According to the New York Times, Mr. Biden opted to avoid public condemnation. Instead, he chose to build upon his personal relationship with Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu and exert pressure in private.
There is no shift in my commitment, the commitment to the security of Israel. We still need a two-state solution. It is the only answer. And I'm prepared to put together and I'm going to attempt to put together a major package with other nations who share our view, rebuild Gaza. And they need the help, and I'm committed to get that done.
Joining us now is Democratic Congressman Andy Levin of Michigan. He is the deputy whip of the Congressional Progressive Caucus and a member of the Committee on Foreign Affairs. His district is north of Detroit. Congressman Levin, good evening.
Hey, Joshua, it's good to see you.
I wonder what your sense is of what the U.S. can do. President Biden was unequivocal this week during that joint press conference with South Korea's President Moon Jae-in that unless there is agreement that Israel has the right to exist as an independent Jewish state with self-determination of its own, that there can be no peace. We're not there yet. There's not that widespread agreement on the ground. Absent that, what do you want the administration and the U.S. to do?
Well, Joshua, I think that there's broad agreement on what is involved in a two-state solution. And we need to push much harder to go in that direction. Recognition of Israel, peace and security for Israel, recognition of the political and human rights of Palestinians, two states for two peoples. And, I think sometimes when you back burner an issue, it comes back to bite you on the backside. And that's what happened here. We need to show both the Palestinians and the Israelis that we are going to encourage them with great fervor to get back together and negotiate a two-state solution. I don't accept the idea that we can sit around and wait for ideal conditions, because those are not about to show up.
I hear you about not waiting for ideal conditions, that we all know about the perfect being the enemy of the good, but things don't even look good. I mean, what does the U.S. have right now to use as leverage to get either side closer to the other?
Well, I think we have a lot of leverage. We're Israel's best friend. We provide Israel with a tremendous amount of aid. The Palestinians need our help, not just to rebuild Gaza, but, I was in Israel and Palestine just before the pandemic. And I don't think people realize the prosperity that could be there, the shared prosperity, if these cousins could be, could come together and make peace. And we really have no choice but to push for it. Look, Hamas is a terrorist organization. Okay. The Palestinian Authority hasn't had democratic elections in many years, and they just canceled some. We should be much more active in helping the Palestinians develop democratic practice, help them move towards elections. I think young people in Palestine are really frustrated. They deserve a democracy of their own, and they deserve to live with the dignity of, not having to go through checkpoints constantly and all of that. They know what they want, and we know what they need.
Right.
So I don't, people act like Israel and Palestine, it's sort of like they're determined, as if like by genetics. Well, environmental conditions matter a lot, and the United States is one of the biggest environmental conditions out there. So let's go and play our role.
Yeah.
And, encourage both parties to move in a peaceful direction.
Another factor is that we don't yet have a permanent ambassador on the ground there. How much of an impact does that have?
It's a big impact, and we are encouraging the Biden administration and President Biden to move very quickly to name an ambassador. We want them to reopen the consulate general for the Palestinians. We want them to move away from a number of horrible decisions that the Trump administration made to basically turn their back on a two-state solution altogether. We need to make clear that there can't be any annexation, that there can't be a deepening of occupation, that the Palestinians need to move towards democratic elections. We want to encourage both sides to come together and negotiate seriously for a shared future.
Speaking of both sides,
I think it's possible.
Speaking of both sides coming together, before I have to let you go, we're coming up on a vote about this January 6th commission that's coming up for a Senate vote. Do you think that we as Americans can model both sides coming together and get a commission passed in the Senate and get that thing moving before we go?
Wow, Joshua, I certainly hope so. I mean, this is a question of whether the Republican Party is going to stay within the realm of democracy or go and remain on the outside in a kind of authoritarian posture where it's all about appeasing a strongman leader.
Well, I mean, if we can't come together on a January 6th commission as Democrats and Republicans, I do not know how the U.S. has the moral legitimacy to tell anyone in the Middle East to come together as Israelis and Palestinians. If we can't do this, how are we going to ask them to do this? I don't see it. Do you?
Well, look at what happened on January 6th itself. You could say, how are we to tell anyone else about being a democratic country when we had a violent mob overrun our temple of democracy for the first time since the war in 1812. Actually, Joshua, I really disagree with you. I don't want to come to other countries from a position of on high and superiority. The United States is definitely a big kid on the playground, but let's be a humble big kid and help lift up others and not act like we know everything or we're perfect. I think that actually can make for a stronger firm.